cross my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Suddenly, the Dark Emperor of the universe began to laugh, amused by this newcomer's statement. "Is that so?" replied Frieza, before turning to Lord Beerus and speaking. "I'll deal with you soon after I make quick work of this imbecile." Without waiting for further response, Abaddon turned his gaze on Black Frieza, and a low mocking smirk filled the air. "You know, it's rather amusing. The audacity you show, this overconfident arrogance. It seems that the mortals of the arena don't know when they outmatch. You're in the presence of a primordial demon god, yet you show no respect, little man," Abaddon taunted, his eyes flashing dangerously. Frieza, taken aback, felt a surge of anger and clenched his fists. "Little man!" yelled Frieza. "You bitch!" His aura began to radiate with even greater intensity. "How dare you!" Frieza roared. "I am the most powerful being in the universe, and I will not tolerate such insolence from a lowly creature such as yourself." In response, Abaddon merely raised an eyebrow, seemingly unimpressed by Frieza's tantrum. "Lowly creature?" he retorted, chuckling at Frieza's words. "The most powerful being in the universe? You flatter yourself, mortal. That title belongs to Mater Zarama himself." From a distance, Beerus observed the unfolding scene with a grave expression, murmuring to himself, "This being, Abaddon. His energy is overwhelming, reminiscent of a god of destruction. What in the cosmos is happening here? Merely 2 years of imprisonment and the multiverse seems to have shifted so drastically. Such an unnerving feeling of powerlessness." This was indeed correct. The mortals are growing stronger with every passing moment. The scene then shifts back to Frieza, whose rage was palpable. Despite his stature, which had always drawn scornful glances, none dared to belittle him directly for fear of the formidable power he possessed. "This is the last straw," Frieza snarled, his eyes burning with fury as he darted towards Abaddon with a speed that was nothing short of extraordinary. "I've had enough," he roared, hurling himself at the demon god. His body was engulfed by a radiant aura, a spear of dark purple energy manifesting with his intent to skewer Abaddon. Abaddon, however, barely acknowledged Frieza as a threat. In a blink he vanished, only to reappear before his true quarry, the one emanating the intriguing aura of demon energy, Lord Beerus himself. "Found you," Abaddon said coldly, an intense gaze locked between the two warriors. "I have some questions in need of answering," Abaddon continued, his focus unwavering from his mission. "I advise you to answer accurately. The consequences of your words could dictate the fate of your existence, as well as that of this universe." The camera pans out, capturing the two formidable figures standing in contrast, each radiating an aura of destruction. Though similar in essence, the destructive energies differed in both appearance and magnitude. Simply put it, Abaddon, being a demon, was born from the purest source of destructive energy, while Beerus had only learned to harness this power through centuries of training. Beerus suddenly broke into laughter, the idea of a mortal daring to threaten a god of destruction striking him as ludicrous. "I don't know who you are, but you seem eager to court death by making such demands of me," Beerus retorted, his gaze never wavering from his challenger. "Fool, it is I who should be asking the questions. Fail to answer, and you will endure a fate far more horrific than death." Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, the Z fighters could only gape in shock at the unfolding standoff. What is happening?" Piccolo stammered, his form shaking with uncharacteristic fear. Even from their distant location, the overwhelming pressure of Abaddon's energy was keenly felt. In the midst of the growing turmoil, Piccolo's concern went unnoticed. The Supreme Kai, who had made a timely arrival, was witnessing the manifestation of a primordial demon god for the first time. Although he had studied about the ancient demons during his Supreme Kai training, seeing one was an entirely different experience. "So that's Abaddon," he mused aloud, his voice carrying an unusual seriousness. "One of the last 4 primordial demon gods, sealed away by Zeno and the angels during the Great Imperial War." He paused, carefully measuring the demon's energy. "It's unique. Just being in his presence. It feels like a black hole, threatening to consume the entire universe in an instant." Meanwhile, Frieza was furious. "He dodged me, but how?" Frieza was surprised as he had used far more power than when he was facing Lord Beerus. Again, He charged at Abaddon with speed less than nanosecond, all while shooting death beams in rapid succession. With a single wave of his hand, Abaddon deflected them effortlessly, in the most disrespectful way possible. He had deflected all of Black Frieza's energy beams, all while not taking his eyes off Lord Beerus. Each time a beam got close, it would simply curve around both Lord Beerus and the demon god, as though their aura itself was repelling everything in the surrounding area. With growing frustration, Frieza unleashed a relentless assault of punches and kicks, each attack escalating in power as he gradually tapped into the depths of his true strength. 50,000 blows were delivered, each more potent than the last, with Frieza at 90% of his full might. Yet, it was akin to launching an onslaught against a fortress of steel. Frieza's blows failed to penetrate even the first layer of the energy shield, a powerful barrier jointly constructed by Beerus and Abaddon's combined energies. "You're so annoying," the gods bellowed in unison. To the astonishment of onlookers, with a swift, synchronized motion, both Lord Beerus and Abaddon retaliated. They delivered a ferocious punch to Black Frieza's midsection, showcasing their formidable united front, a spray of blood erupting from his mouth as he was driven into the Earth's crust. The collision resulted in a massive crater that stretched across the length and breadth of all 7 continents. Dust and debris were flung into the air, veiling the battlefield in an opaque cloud of chaos. As the dust settled, Frieza lay sprawled in the crater, a testament to the heat confrontation of the gods. But despite the beatdown, Black Frieza was grinning, and from the crater, a guttural laugh could be heard. Finally, Frieza wheezed, slowly standing back up, a worthy opponent. The scene transitions to the most formidable of the 4 original demon gods, Azazel, the progenitor of Eric himself, already present in Universe 11. His velocity was extraordinary. Even though Lord Belmont's planet was located at the universe's center, Azazel infiltrated the atmosphere in less than a second. This feat was achieved due to a unique ability inherent to the demon race. Each demon has the power to generate their personal pocket dimension, a dimension accessible solely to its creator. Yet what truly distinguishes this ability is its capacity to teleport the user to any location in the multiverse. There's a caveat, however. The user must have previously visited the location. In Azazel's case, he had been to Universe 11 before. The instant he stepped through the portal, Azazel came to a halt mid-air, floating above the planet. Thanks to their shared telepathy, he had been informed by Abaddon about the strange demon energy in Universe 7 and its wielder. So he's not a demon, Azazel mused, his curiosity piqued further. Then how on earth could a mortal wield destruction energy? It should be toxic to them. This doesn't make any logical sense. Perhaps I'll discover more after I confront this pretender. With that revelation, Azazel plummeted to the planet's surface like a meteor, cloaked in a radiant display of power. Lord Belmont's castle trembled, the genuine destructive energy radiating from the demon god overpowering even in its serene state. "What on earth is that?" Belmont exclaimed. A battered and defeated Belmont was then shown, being tended to by his multiple wives. A few hours had passed since he and the other gods made their escape, and despite soaking in the recovery spring exclusive to the gods, he hadn't fully recuperated. "Damn it!" Belmont shouted. "This is destruction energy! Could this be Vegeta?" Overwhelmed by the unfamiliar energy, Belmont pulled himself up with the help of his wives, wincing as he moved. He then slowly made his way to the outer courtyard of his castle, a desperate determination set in his eyes. Jiren, ever the stoic one, perceived a peculiar destructive energy emanating from outside Belmont's fortress. "My lord," he began, uncertainty etching his features. "This energy bears a striking resemblance to Vegeta's. However, I am unsure if it is indeed him. Please grant us permission to confront this visitor." Toppo, without missing a beat, affirmed, "Yes, my lord. Should this entity bear hostile intentions, we will promptly eliminate the threat." Jiren was curious why this destructive energy was Vegeta so similar in nature to Vegeta. This was due to the fact that Vegeta had mastered the true essence of destruction energy. He had managed to unlock the complete extent of destruction power. The reason both the demons and Vegeta's destruction energy are so similar is that demons are the true owner's destruction energy. All tiers of destructive energy could be traced back to the demons, who had been bestowed full access to such power from birth, making them the true wielders of destructive energy. Yet before the Pride Troopers could make their exit, Azazel had already arrived at the entrance. His aura was formidable, sending waves of power across the landscape, a testament to his immense strength. Belmont, unfamiliar with the newcomer's identity, demanded, Who are you, and why have you trespassed into my realm uninvited?" Fear was an unusual emotion for a god of destruction like Belmont, particularly when he was still severely wounded and hadn't fully regained his strength. Azazel replied in a composed tone, displaying more patience than Abaddon, as expected of the attendant to the first mortal, Zarama. "Mortal," he intoned, ignorant as he wasn't aware of the title gods of destruction. "I appreciate your caution. My name is Azazel, one of the last 4 primordial demon gods, and I've journeyed here to satisfy a curiosity." "A primordial demon god?" Belmont shouted in disbelief. "You're lying. That's impossible. All the demon gods were exterminated billions of years ago, and yet you stand here claiming to be one." "Oh, so you've heard of us," Azazel responded with a hint of intrigue. "Fascinating," he muttered to himself. "It appears these mortals are aware of our existence. This might explain why he possesses Destruction Key." "Since you are aware of my kind," Azazel continued, "I will now take you with me as you may hold the answers to my questions." The demons had a sinister plot brewing. As soon as they entered the multiverse, they detected the presence of destructive energy. Further deliberation led them to seek more knowledge. Abaddon info had revealed that these mortals weren't demons as they had initially taught. Momentarily after, seeing it for himself, Azazel had seen this as an opportunity to gain more knowledge. How did a mortal manage to weld destruction energy? These are some of the questions running in his mind. This intention was to try to use the knowledge he found to engineer a new, more powerful demon race, all under the rule of the first mortal, Zarama himself, to the surprise of many. Immediately after, hearing the threat made by Azazel to capture their god, Lord Belmont. Suddenly, the auras of Jiren and Toppo burst into life, their eyes blazing with resolve. Jiren, the indomitable titan amongst the Pride Troopers, tightened his fists, the energy around him fizzling and crackling like a coiling supernova. "No one threatens our god of destruction," Jiren declared, his voice echoing with steely determination. Toppo, a warrior of great renown and the next in line for the title of god of destruction, summoned his own energy, a whirlwind of purple spiraling ominously around him. "Your insolence ends here, demon!" Toppo barked, his tone laced with unyielding conviction. "What? Another who possesses destruction energy?" replied Azazel. "What has happened in the last billions of years of my absence?" Jiren and Toppo reacted without a second's delay. Both of them charged at the intruder with such breathtaking speed that they were practically a blur. Bursting into action, the duo hurtled towards Azazel, their figures blurring in a rush of speed. Jiren, spearheading the attack, launched a fist towards Azazel, his strike bearing the force of the universe. But Azazel sidestepped, displaying an unsettling calm, only to meet the ferocious onslaught of Toppo's destruction energy blasts. Purple orbs of destructive energy poured from Toppo's hands, each aimed squarely at the imposing figure of the demon god Azazel. Despite their formidable power, they seemed to dissolve harmlessly against Azazel's aura, like meteors crashing against an unyielding fortress. "Remarkable," Azazel mused, his lips curling into a satisfied smile. "Destruction energy indeed. This mortal seems to have some mastery over it. Reminds me of a fledgling demon finding its feet." His voice trailed off, caught in contemplation. His strength pales in comparison, but it's still intriguing to see a different race command the energy we demons possess. Suddenly, Azazel's eyes flashed with a dangerous gleam. Energy exploded from him in a fearsome display, briefly overwhelming all else. The surrounding atmosphere trembled under the sheer pressure, bearing witness to his terrifying power. "These mortals are growing bold. It's time I put an end to this," he declared, his voice carrying a chilling finality. In the next instant, Azazel was a blur. The demon god thrust his hand forward, unleashing a gargantuan wave of destruction energy that tore through the planet. It was a cataclysmic force, threatening to obliterate everything in its path. Jiren and Toppo struggled to hold their ground. The scorching heat was overwhelming, with even Toppo, in his own destructive form, grimacing under the oppressive energy. "What is this?" Jiren cried out, completely outmatched and confounded by the godly display of power. "Is this even destruction energy?" he shouted again. "Even Vegeta doesn't command this much control over destruction energy. What is this being? He's more than just an anomaly." The two Pride Troopers were forced backward merely by the force radiating from Azazel's energy. A distance away, Belmont clenched his teeth, determination flashing in his eyes. Despite his weakened state, he was prepared to stand his ground, ready to join the fight alongside his only allies against the invading demon. Yet, before he could jump into the fray, a sudden sensation seized him, and his expression turned grave. "It can't be," he whispered, glancing down at his god pad. The multiversal map displayed on the screen showed every universe, including his own Universe 11, blinking ominously in a red hue, a stark warning of a monumental catastrophe threatening the entire multiverse. Meanwhile, in Universe 7, Beerus and Abaddon were locked in a tense standoff. The air was thick with anticipation, but their focus was abruptly diverted by a noticeable surge in energy. As their gazes met, Abaddon's eyes revealed a flicker of understanding. "Azazel," he murmured. "The moment has come," Abaddon noted with an intensity that reflected the significance of Azazel's decision to step into the fray. A sense of curiosity underlined his words, as Azazel had never been known to be one for idle boasting. "It appears he's found a worthy adversary. Fascinating. I too have discovered an intriguing individual, one whose body hints at the potential for transformation," Abaddon divulged, his attention fixated once again on the figure of Lord Beerus. Elsewhere, at the base of a gaping crater, Black Frieza gradually roused. His body bore the brunt of the battle's ferocity, yet his pride and insatiable hunger for power compelled him to persist. As he dragged himself from the debris, he cast his gaze skywards. His eyes widened in recognition of an immense surge of energy in the distance, the destructive wave of Azazel's power carving its path through the cosmos. "Who could that be?" Black Frieza murmured, curiosity momentarily overcoming him before he spotted a window of opportunity and launched his next attack. For the first time, he summoned the entirety of his strength, holding nothing back as he rocketed towards the heavens, his aura radiating with a brilliance that outshone a supernova. Meeting the energy shield encircling Lord Beerus and the demon god once more, he roared his defiance. Much to everyone's surprise, his efforts paid off. Black Frieza shattered the energy barrier effortlessly, scattering it to the wind. "Cursed nuisance," Frieza grumbled, frustrated that he had been driven to exert himself so intensely. A sudden spark of fury ignited within him, erupting in a primal scream that echoed across the battlefield. It was a defiant declaration, a warning to his adversaries. The Emperor of Universe 7 would not fall easily. Meanwhile, back on Beerus's planet, the Oracle Fish tuned into the events transpiring across the multiverse. Deep in thought, it wore a grim expression. "Danger! Danger! The multiverse teeters on the brink of disaster!" it cried out, turning towards the god pod presented to Lord Beerus by the Grand Priest. The light on the pod flashed red, a signal of universal imbalance. Suddenly, in a mesmerizing symphony, the oracles across each universe began reciting the same prophecy in unison. "All shall converge into one, and one shall rule supreme." It was the same prophecy each oracle had delivered while in a comatose state. Amidst the turmoil, Azazel reveled in the devastation he was causing, his power shaking the very foundation of the multiverse. A malicious laugh erupted from him, satisfaction clear in his tone. "It's been an age since I've felt such thrill. Their fear, their despair, it's intoxicating." In the expansive, tumultuous realm of the cosmos, planets were no more than stepping stones amidst a spectacular backdrop of blazing supernovas. On this dramatic stage of shifting space-time, three legendary Saiyan warriors held their ground. Goku and Vegeta, both ascending to their mystical Master Omni form, were joined by Broly, who bore the rare and incredibly potent transformation of Dark Super Saiyan 5, a form birthed from the depths of his soul. Their foe, Zarama, the first mortal twisted into a malevolent deity, embodied a raw, unchecked power, one that seemed capable of tearing the very fabric of existence. In this 3-versus-1 battle, notions of a fair fight were abandoned, especially since their pride had already cost Gohan his life. "Zarama, you will pay for your deeds," Goku's voice echoed, his words imbued with rage as anger threatened to consume his spirit. Goku and Vegeta, both in their Omni forms, radiated a divine glow, their bodies vibrating with unparalleled fury, a testament to their enlightenment. Standing beside them was Broly, whose colossal frame towered over even the grandeur of the nearby celestial bodies. His hair was dark red, and his aura pulsed with an intense turquoise light. His muscles were coiled with anticipation, his eyes aflame with a blend of contained wrath and focus. Opposite them, Zarama stood tall, his face etched with a malicious grin, the space around him warped by the swirling chaos of his dark energy. With a shared nod of understanding, all three Saiyan lunged forward, Goku and Vegeta, their long-standing rivalry evolving into a seamless partnership, moved as one. Their joint assault was a lethal dance of unity and precision. Broly followed, his immense energy causing the surrounding space to ripple. Their attack was fierce and unyielding, a remarkable exhibition of energy and martial skill. Goku and Vegeta bombarded Zarama's defenses with synchronized energy blasts, their combined power pushing back against his dark barrier. With a roaring cry, Broly's fists, infused with energy, collided with Zarama's shield, splintering it into fragments of darkness. The united power of the three Saiyans proved too overwhelming for the barrier to withstand. Unexpected, they forced me on the defensive, Zarama murmured to himself. These mortals, who have they become? Just moments ago, their powers seemed significantly lesser. With Zarama's barrier down, the Saiyans pressed on. Surrounding their foe from all sides, they advanced the moment the shield fell. Goku slipped through the dissipating shards of dark energy. Each punch, powered by divine ki, met Zarama's frame, their force resonating like an anthem of strength across the null realm. Vegeta was right there, their movements blending into a frenzied ballet of attacks. With a thunderous strike from above, Zarama was sent spiraling towards the arena floor. However, the clever mortal took a surprising action before he could make contact with the ground. Utilizing an ability he'd shown before, he opened his pocket dimension right beneath him. This allowed him to fall through, cleverly breaking his descent instead of crash landing onto the arena. But Broly, with his boldness and reckless courage, was not to be underestimated. Before the portal could close with Zarama inside, Broly's aura flared up, outshining even the brightest stars around them. With a primal roar, he summoned a massive sphere of pulsating energy, a Big Bang attack. The sphere, with an eerie turquoise glow, sped through the null realm, colliding with Zarama with destructive force, interrupting his control over time and space. As the portal tried to close, the fiery blast erupted. The ripples from the attack forcefully reopened Zarama's pocket dimension, allowing Broly to fly in. "No, Broly!" Goku's warning came out as a yell, but his caution fell on deaf ears. The unexpected soon unfolded. The moment Broly stepped into the pocket dimension, the sand was struck by a lightning strike, powerful enough to rattle dimensions, causing him to cry out in pure agony before being pulled back outside by Vegeta. "You imbecile! Why do you always act without thinking?" Vegeta chided as he berated Broly. "Ha ha!" A sound of laughter echoed from within the portal. Had he ventured any further inside, that fool would have surely perished. As the afterglow of the explosion faded, Zarama emerged, his clothes tattered, his body scarred, yet the smug expression on his face remained undisturbed. "I must commend you. That was not a weak attack. The three of you possess impressive power, but you've chosen to oppose the wrong entity." "He's a beast," Goku replied. "Look at him. He behaves as if our combined attack meant nothing to him." The trio of Saiyans regrouped, the full gravity of their challenge finally dawning on them. A silent understanding passed between Goku, Broly, and Vegeta. It was time to give it their all. They could no longer hold back in fear of Zeno's arrival. This battle could mean certain death, and the Saiyans weren't going to kick the bucket without a challenge. However, before the Saiyans could brace themselves, an unexpected whisper escaped Zarama's lips. "I find you three intriguing. You mortals seem to possess a unique talent for battle, a hidden gift," Zarama proposed. "Why not join me in my mission? If I recall correctly, I once lent you my strength in a battle against the angels, didn't I? Without my energy, you mortals would be long gone." "That was you," shouted Vegeta as he was shocked out of his mind, seeing that he was the one who accepted it. "Yes," responded Zarama. "We share a common objective, to defeat the deities of the multiverse. So why not join forces with me, mortals? Let's conquer this ambitious goal together." "Join you? You must be joking," Goku roared, his anger visibly flaring again. "How dare you suggest that after taking my son's life? You killed my firstborn, Gohan." The fury in his eyes was undeniable. The death of Gohan had forever changed Goku. He was no longer the man he once was. There might have been a time when we would have considered such a proposal, given our numerical disadvantage, Vegeta acknowledged. "But after you've taken the life of one of my devoted subjects, there's absolutely no chance I'd ever accept such an offer." "You will meet your end here," Broly declared with a thunderous yell. "Your demise will be slow and agonizing. You have my word." "I see," responded Zarama coldly. "If that's your sentiment, there's no point in me showing any restraint. It's time for you to meet the same fate as your son. At this ominous threat, their bodies began to merge. It's time, Kakarot, Vegeta proclaimed. It's time we risk everything. On this day, Omni Gogeta will be born. With their determination steeled, Goku and Vegeta took a step back, their bodies poised and ready as they dropped back to base form in order to perform this fusion. Vegeta, shouted Goku, don't mess this up. If you do, we are dead. Our energy will be completely gone, and this time it will be for good. The air around them began to ripple with the force of their combined energies, the tangible tension echoing across the null realm. With synchronized movements, they began to perform the familiar dance of fusion, their bodies twisting and turning in harmony. A brilliant flash of light enveloped them. Nonetheless, the anticipated outcome did not materialize. As soon as the radiant energy faded, the pair of Saiyans could be spotted, stuck in the rather comical pose of their fusion dance. Kakarot! Vegeta hollered. You made a mistake! Goku looked equally shocked, unable to comprehend why the fusion had failed. Me? He bellowed back. Why am I always the one at fault? I warned you earlier, didn't I, Vegeta? Oh crap, said Goku, as both he and Vegeta began to clasp to the surface before being caught by Broly moments before their body hit the ground. Something that was long due happened, and the Saiyans were running on borrowed time. Their energy and stamina have been completely wiped out, leaving only a small amount to keep them breathing. Meanwhile, Zarama couldn't help but burst into laughter. He was uncertain about the technique the Saiyans were attempting, but it was clear to him that it had backfired. Why bother bickering amongst yourselves? He chimed in. Your end is inevitable. It's only a question of who goes first. War was looming, and the Saiyans found themselves in a dire situation. For reasons unknown, Gogeta was not an option, leaving the Saiyans with no choice but to rely on their individual strength. However, to make their situation worse, both Goku and Vegeta had fallen unconscious, leaving Broly to face the powerful threat known as Zarama, all while protecting his fellow comrades. Meanwhile, a sinister change was unfolding in the shadows. Back in Universe 7, all planets and celestial bodies began an accelerated aging process. Unbeknownst to an unconscious Goku, his master Omniform was leeching life from every living thing in Universe 7. Planets, animals, plants, and bodies of water started to wither. If Goku were pushed any further and was forced to draw on even more power, his next energy source would be the sun, and, as a final resort, living beings such as other mortals. The attainment and mastery of the Omniform come with their perks. Any entity achieving this status can rule over any domain or universe of their choice. Both Goku and Vegeta were deeply connected to Universe 7, unconsciously choosing it as their hearts instinctively set on its protection. However, those who reached the Omniform in the past were unable to perform such feats. These abilities were exclusive to truly omniscient and omnipotent beings, only available to those with the aquafoam from the fountain of creation coursing through their veins. Though Vegeta, like Goku, had achieved the Omniform and had the aquafoam in his bloodstream, he had not yet fully mastered the form. Consequently, he could not draw energy from his universe as a backup source. As the laws of reality dictate, no entity, other than the sole ruler of a universe, can erase or destroy it. That meant that even Grand Zeno couldn't use his eraser ability to obliterate Universe 7 or any of its inhabitants without killing its ruler first. However, erasure wasn't the Omni King's intention. His plans run much deeper than that. He could have easily obliterated Universe 7 in the past. Instead, the Omni King had a different objective, and everything up until now was part of his grand design. Get up! Bellowed Broly, his voice echoing across the landscape, trying his hardest to raise Goku and Vegeta from their slumber. This is no time for rest. We must press on. Elsewhere, far beyond the Null Realm, in a place that needs no introduction, the Omni King was on the edge of his throne. A shout of frustration left his lips. No, the fusion was unsuccessful. But why? At that moment, realization dawned on him. The flaw lay with Vegeta, whose Omniform was noticeably weaker than Goku. He felt a twinge of disappointment, even anger, an emotion unheard of for him in the entirety of Dragon Ball Super. For his grand plan to succeed, it was vital for Goku and Vegeta to unite into a single entity. Their fusion would complete the Aquafoam, a unique quality present within both Saiyans, returning it to its original unified state. There was, however, a caveat only known to the Omni King. If the previously attempted fusion was successful, the fusion would have become irreversible, leaving both Goku and Vegeta in a fused state for the rest of their lives. This marked the initial phase of Grand Zeno's scheme, which revolved around 4 crucial elements. First, they must attain the status of Omni. Second, the corruption within the Aqua Foam must be purged, a task Goku and Vegeta have already accomplished. The third step required complete mastery over their new form. Lastly, upon fulfilling the initial 3 conditions, both Saiyans must merge to fully reunite the Aqua Foam back to its original state. "Daishinkan!" called out Zeno, his voice sharp and clear. "It's time! Retrieve both Saiyans and bring them to my palace." Back in the Null Realm, in response to Zarama's challenge, Broly's Kai began to surge in intensity. He was the only one left standing, and his comrades depended on him. Drawing upon every ounce of his power he had left, he charged at Zarama once more with blinding speed, the rigorous ape cry in his voice. Their battle raged on, sending shockwaves across the realm. Despite the visible strain on his body, Broly fought with undeterred determination. His power began to surge, as Broly was getting stronger and faster. His wellspring of power hasn't run dry just yet. Instantly, his aura flaring wildly, a sight reminiscent of a new, never-being-seen-before transformation. Not legendary, but the mystical Super Saiyan 6 transformation. However, disappointing to the viewers watching at home, Broly could not quite break through to this ultimate state, falling just short of true divinity. Meanwhile, in Universe 7, the after effects of Goku's Omni form had begun taking its course. Plants started to wither rapidly, rivers dried up, and bodies of water receded on individual planets located far outside the solar system. The entire universe seemed to be aging. However, time remained the same for mortals, as only the small living things started to age around them first. But this was the beginning of an ecological disaster of an unprecedented scale, and it showed no signs of stopping. Broly's battle with Zarama was reaching its peak as both warriors jumped back after recognizing each other's strength. Zarama was growing more intrigued by Broly's unexpected resilience. "You fight with a fervor I've rarely seen," he remarked, a wicked grin stretching across his face. "What's your name, Saiyan?" "Broly," the legendary Saiyan replied, his gaze never wavering from Zarama's ominous figure. "Well, Broly," Zarama said, "it would seem that your strength is not a mere rumor. You are indeed a formidable opponent." Suddenly, in the middle of the conversation, an invisible force seemed to hold Zarama's shoulder. A familiar voice echoed across the Null Realm. "Enough, mortal," came the Grand Priest's voice, resonating from an unknown location. Back at Zeno's palace, an unforeseen event had thwarted the Omni King's plan. With a sigh, he issued a new command. "Daishinkan, it's time. Retrieve the Saiyans and bring them back here." Despite his urge to argue, the Daishinkan complied. "As you wish, Zeno-sama." His form shimmered as he prepared to teleport to the Null Realm. Back on the battlefield, Broly had been fighting tirelessly, but he was beginning to falter. His wellspring of power had run dry. Despite his indomitable spirit, he couldn't hold out forever. And then it happened. Broly had fallen to the ground, gasping for air on his knees. His Dark Super Saiyan 4 transformation was no more as even that withered away. Suddenly, just as Zarama was preparing his final strike, a radiant light enveloped the battlefield. As the intensity of the light subsided, the Grand Priest appeared. His divine aura cast a glow over the desolate surroundings. "Enough!" he thundered, his voice echoing across the Null Realm. "Did you not hear me the first time?" His gaze fell upon the 2 defeated Saiyans, Goku and Vegeta, and he swiftly interposed himself to protect their unconscious forms from further damage. Unleashing one of his hidden angelic abilities, he conjured a protective shield around Goku and Vegeta. Within the confines of the shield, their bodies vanished in an instant. This technique, known as Vortex Jump, allowed him to transport anything or anyone to any specific location, irrespective of dimensional boundaries. With this power, he could ensure the safety of Goku and Vegeta as they mysteriously appeared at the palace of the Omni King, proving once again the depth of his unknown abilities. Meanwhile, a still-conscious Broly stared in shock at the abrupt departure of his comrades, left alone to face the wrath of Zarama. But Zarama's eyes were no longer on the mighty Saiyan. Instead, he turned his attention towards the new angelic figure that had just appeared. "An angel," Zarama said with a sardonic smirk. "What a delightful surprise. I wasn't expecting to cross paths with one of you so soon." Ignoring Zarama's taunting, the Grand Priest turned to Broly. His eyes hardened, showing an unexpected hint of anger. "You fought well, young Saiyan," he complimented. "But my orders were to bring back only Goku and Vegeta, you not so much. Furthermore, you've killed 2 of my children, so unfortunately, you have to die." "No!" yelled Broly. "You can't take them!" Suddenly, the Grand Priest held up his hand, stopping him mid-sentence. With a swift arc of his hand, a radiant golden glow enshrouded Broly. The intent to annihilate emanated from the Grand Priest, permeating the realm like a chill wind. Broly was targeted for obliteration. His role in the demise of the Grand Priest's 2 children marked him for retribution. The Grand Priest was renowned for his vengefulness, yet ensnared in the puzzle of Xeno's plan, a wave of futility washed over him. Driven by this nagging sensation, he sought to dispel his mounting tension. The perfect target for his wrath? None other than the man who played a part in the death of Korn and Kusu. As the glow intensified, Broly's screams of agony echoed through the void. The searing heat emanating from Daishinkan's assault was unbearable, deemed to torment for any mortal, especially for Broly, who was in an already weakened state. "Well, this is a surprise," Zarma remarked, caught off guard by this turn of events. He had anticipated the Grand Priest's confrontation, yet never could he have foreseen this. Observing the Grand Priest act in pure self-interest was a revelation. A sinister grin began to form on the Grand Priest's face, as if his true nature was finally emerging. But then, to everyone's astonishment, Broly's cries ceased. The unthinkable occurred. For the first time in memory, the Grand Priest's spell was shattered, and his connect was severed for a brief moment, halting his attack in its tracks. Events spiraled rapidly. In an instant, both Broly and Gohan's lifeless body was yanked through a dimensional portal, hurtling them back to a time lost in history. This wasn't any portal, but it was a time portal. The Saiyan Broly was no longer in the present, but he was now 4,100 years in the past. The year was certain, and it appeared that Broly had landed on a planet ravaged by constant war. However, what stood out was that in this era, the Saiyans are alive. The scene which back to the Grand Priest, who was utterly stunned. He was at a loss for words, failing to explain what had just transpired. The only conclusion he could draw was that divine intervention was at play. Yet, he couldn't ascertain which god had intervened. Zarama, ever observant, had not only witnessed the encounter, but also felt the presence of a divine entity. The aura was subtle, yet when it made its presence known, it surged with an overwhelming power. The scene pivoted back to the Grand Priest, his usually composed visage twisted with confusion. With a shock of disbelief rippling through him, the Grand Priest slowly lowered his hand, the golden glow that had enshrouded Broly only moments ago dissipating into the ether. His gaze swept over the place where Broly once stood. His belief in divine intervention became his only anchor in this whirlpool of uncertainties. Yet the question gnawed at him. Which deity had intervened? Could it be Zeno-sama? A certainty began to blossom in his thoughts. Indeed, it must be him. Only a scarce few deities possess the power to halt an attack of my caliber, and he is among them. Lost in a maze of contemplation, the Grand Priest inadvertently neglected the formidable presence of the first mortal. Could I have erred? He never explicitly forbade me from ending him. He merely instructed me to bring back Goku and Vegeta. For the first time, in his solitude, the Grand Priest felt his pulse quicken. The Daishinkan, renowned for his ironclad control over his emotions, felt a tinge of unease creeps up his spine. Could I have inadvertently thrown a wrench in his plans? Mused the Grand Priest. A momentary pause lingered in the air before he suddenly exclaimed, "Blast it!" His tone carried a twinge of regret. I allowed myself to become too engrossed. "What now, Angel?" yelled Zarama, arms crossed defiantly. "Will you engage in battle, or will you simply stand there and look pretty? I must confess, I'm unable to comprehend what just transpired. Yet my objective remains unaltered. Each deity will fall beneath my power." The Grand Priest turned to Zarama, a cryptic grin teasing the corners of his lips. "Zarama," he retorted, "engaging you in combat is not within my realm of duty. Your reckoning will arrive, but it's not today. You are yet valuable to our cause." The Grand Priest was uncertain of his next course of action. He was unwilling to engage in a fight that might potentially incense the Omni King. With that thought, the Grand Priest teleported back to the palace, abandoning the Null Realm, leaving Zarama alone. A dense silence blanketed the arena, disrupted only by Zarama's low, disgruntled grumbles. Elsewhere, within Zeno's grand palace, Goku and Vegeta abruptly materialized. their bodies sprawled on the immaculate marble floor, the ethereal palace light casting elongated shadows around their still forms. The Omni King, perched on his throne, traded his usual playful countenance for a serious visage. He silently observed as Daishinkan entered the throne room with trepidation, cradling the unconscious forms of Goku and Vegeta on his shoulders. The scene transitions to the past, where Broly rises, eyes wide in astonishment. Unknown to him, he stands on planet Vegeta, a land familiar to Dragon Ball enthusiasts as the destination of the Saiyan survivors who migrated from planet Salada. Broly murmured, trying to grasp his surroundings. "Where am I?" From afar, he felt the distinctive presence of several Saiyan key signatures. This realm felt alien, the very air contrasting starkly with the era he remembered. Yet the concept of time travel eluded him. Lying beside him, Gohan's lifeless form stirred painful recognition. Broly swiftly cradled his comrade, resolved to return the body to its family for a proper farewell. But paramount on his mind was finding Goku and Vegeta. The first hurdle, though, was determining his exact location. As he pondered, twin azure streaks danced across the skies of primitive Vegeta. The pale lunar glow painted the landscape below in silvery hues. To Broly, this sight evoked no memories. The birthplace of his infancy remained an elusive fragment. However, he immediately felt the gravitational difference. The planet's pull was distinct from Earth's or Vampa's. Lost in thought, Broly felt an intrinsic bond forming with this alien world. But his introspection was shattered when the key signatures of nearby Saiyans surged in intensity. With Gohan's form carefully laid across his shoulder, Broly's innate curiosity guided him towards the source. "I was told by Goku that the Saiyans were extinct," Broly whispered, confusion tainting his voice. He descended stealthily, masking his Kai, anticipating the Saiyan's ability to sense it. What met his gaze was unexpected: a tribe. They adorned themselves with bone necklaces and animal skin attire, exuding an aroma that could be detected from miles away. In the absence of advanced technology, he concealed Gohan's body under a dense canopy and ventured closer to the tribal gathering. Among them, Broly discerned 6 distinct Saiyan figures. Without warning, the tribal Saiyans formed a circle, their energies intertwining as they chanted an arcane sequence. To Broly, the ritual was enigmatic, but to seasoned Dragon Ball followers, the scene unmistakably echoed the Super Saiyan God ceremony once performed for Goku on Earth. From the center of the tribal circle, a figure slightly smaller than the rest began to glow with an ethereal crimson aura. His ki felt different, both ancient and powerful, hinting at an event of paramount significance. Broly, concealed among the trees, squinted to get a better look, his instincts telling him that the Saiyan was different from the rest. The gathered Saiyans chanted louder and faster, their energies funneling into the central figure. The night sky, previously calm and serene, now pulsated with raw energy. The moon's glow turned a deep shade of red, mirroring the intense radiance emanating from the figure in the center. Though Broly wasn't aware, every Dragon Ball fan could easily recognize this moment. This was Yamoshi, the Saiyan destined to become the first ever Super Saiyan God. As Yamoshi's transformation neared its culmination, the atmospheric tension became palpable. The very ground beneath Broly's feet quaked, and the winds carried whispers of ancient prophecies. In the midst of the ritual, Yamoshi's eyes snapped open, glowing fiercely. He levitated off the ground, bathed in a fiery black aura, his hair a brilliant shade of black. Different from Goku, Yamoshi was the true Super Saiyan God. He was granted all the power and abilities that came with the title of a Super Saiyan God. Only he can wield it all in just his base form. A transformation was not needed as it burns too much stamina. Awestruck, Broly stepped out of his hiding spot, inadvertently revealing his presence. The tribal Saiyans, sensing an unfamiliar ki, immediately halted their chant and turned to face the intruder. Yamoshi, still levitating and resonating with godly energy, slowly descended and fixed his gaze on Broly. For a moment their eyes met, and a deep unspoken understanding passed between them. It was as if Yamoshi, despite being from a vastly different time, recognized the pain and isolation in Broly's heart. You see, even though Broly and Yamoshi had never crossed paths before, something mysterious had connected their destinies. It was as though an unseen force or a hidden person had intertwined their fates. But the question lingered. Who was responsible, and why had they done it? Even in Broly's weakened state, Yamoshi could sense a raw and unbridled power emanating from the Saiyan. It was a strength that the other Saiyans were entirely oblivious to. "You are not from this time," Yamoshi said, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance, filled with wisdom and a hint of uncertainty. It was a statement, yet it begged for an answer, hinting at mysteries yet to be unveiled. Broly, taken aback and unsure of how to respond, simply nodded. This time, he muttered to himself, his voice tinged with confusion and curiosity. What does he mean by that? Do not fear, Yamoshi continued, his eyes locking with Broly's, filled with calm assurance. I've seen visions of your arrival. The universe's tapestry is vast, and our threads have intertwined for a purpose. A pause filled the air as Yamoshi's words settled, and then he spoke again, his voice old yet powerful, resonating with the wisdom of ages. I think I'm supposed to teach you the ways of our ancestry, the true way of a proud Saiyan warrior. The words hung in the space between them, a promise of understanding and a challenge that reached beyond time. It was an invitation to a journey that both were destined to undertake. In Yamoshi's mind, Broly was not just a remarkable Saiyan, but the very pinnacle of their strength. Never before had he encountered or even imagined a Saiyan possessing such immense power, someone who had complete control over the Ozaru form. And it wasn't just that. He could tell that Broly still had a great reservoir of untapped power within him. With the proper knowledge and training, he believed that Broly could be truly unstoppable. His Saiyan blood boiling with anticipation, Yamoshi was not afraid. He yearned to witness it. The other Saiyans looked on, their faces a mixture of awe and suspicion. Among them, one individual stood out, presumably a Saiyan elder, his hand clutching a worn-out scroll. It's as the prophecies foretold, he exclaimed, his voice trembling with excitement and reverence. Reality will be rewritten on the day a Saiyan warrior bearing the mark of the Ozaru arrives from another world. He couldn't believe his eyes. These sacred scrolls, passed down in his family for thousands of years, were now coming to life. Upon the passing of his father, he had been entrusted with the protection of this scroll. You see, within that very scroll lay the knowledge of how to become a Super Saiyan God. That was how Yamoshi had learned of the Super Saiyan God ritual. Suddenly, the elder unfurled the scroll with care, revealing an ancient depiction that bore a striking resemblance to Broly. On the scroll, it was stated that in order for that warrior to become the warrior of legend, he must accept himself for who he truly is. However, what no one knew, not even the elder, was that there was a final part to the prophecy, shrouded in mystery and concealment. It was hidden, a message of warning that only a chosen few were meant to decipher. It reads, "All shall converge into one, and one shall reign supreme." You might be wondering, this sounds reminiscent of the prophecy the oracle fish mentioned in the future. But what could it possibly mean? Unfortunately, this cryptic part of the prophecy remained an enigma, a tantalizing puzzle waiting to be solved, a secret whispering from the annals of history. Upon the closure of the scroll, the room seemed to settle into a reverent silence. From that moment, this marked the beginning of a legend. This was how the myth of the Super Saiyan God and the legendary Super Saiyan was first passed down through Saiyan's history. A tale born from prophecy, sealed with destiny, and forever etched in the collective memory of a proud warrior race. The seed had been planted, a path laid out for the future, a challenge, and a promise that would shape the destiny of Saiyans for generations to come. The scene swiftly transitions to Earth. Here, Frieza, enveloped in his dark aura, reigned with unmatched might. "Beerus!" Frieza's voice pierced the atmosphere like a chilling blade. "Stand aside. Once I've dealt with this newcomer, you'll be next on my list." A palpable tension hovered over the battlefield, the air thick with the intensity of what was to come. The Z fighters, aware of their power difference, stood at a distance. Their eyes were locked onto the impending confrontation involving three vastly superior beings: Lord Beerus, Black Frieza, and the primordial demon god, Abaddon. Cloaked in his sinister aura, Frieza taunted Abaddon. "I'm coming after you, demon. Let's see if your bite is as big as your bark." Abaddon responded, his voice as cold as ice. "A true dance of death requires rhythm, little man." Abaddon's little man comment had struck a nerve in Frieza's ego. "You bitch," he roared, before wasting no time in launching himself at Abaddon with such speed, it seemed he had disappeared. Suddenly, he reappeared above Abaddon, raining down a relentless barrage of death beams. For a moment it seemed as though Abaddon was caught off guard, dodging and deflecting the oncoming assault. However, amidst the flurry of attacks, Abaddon's form shimmered, multiplying into a dozen illusions. Frieza, temporarily disoriented, blasted his death saucers, slicing through each illusion, only for them to dissipate into smoke. Seeing the futility of his initial approach, Frieza changed tactics. He used his psychokinesis to raise colossal rock formations from the earth, sending them hurtling towards Abaddon. However, the demon god, with an amused smile, shattered them with a mere wave of his hand. Lord Beerus, observing from the sidelines, couldn't help but laugh. "You sure know how to put on a show, Frieza. Remember your place," he chuckled. Frieza became irritated. "Shut your mouth," he yelled, his frustration showcasing on his face. Lord Beerus didn't take too kindly to the outburst. His eyes narrowed, and for a moment, it seemed like he might launch himself at the insolent Emperor. However, a flicker of uncertainty stayed his hand. For the first time in millennia, he decided to control his temper. Beerus had heard whispers of Frieza's opponent, an actual primordial demon god, something beyond even the formidable angels themselves. His keen eyes could tell that Frieza was no match for such a foe. A chill settled in the god's spine as he considered the situation. Could he, the powerful Lord Beerus, defeat such a myth? The question lingered, leaving even him unsure of the answer. Instantly, the battle continued, each combatant matching the other blow for blow. Black Frieza seemed relentless, constantly shifting his attack patterns and employing every technique at his disposal. Yet, each time he seemed to gain the upper hand, Abaddon's appearance of taking damage was revealed to be nothing more than an elaborate ruse. Despite the ever-widening gap in their powers, Frieza held firm, refusing to admit defeat. But as Abaddon began exerting more of his energy, it became clear that this was a battle the Emperor could not win. Black Frieza was draining his energy at a rapid rate, each movement sapping his strength. The situation was growing dire. Abaddon, meanwhile, found himself growing bored with the display. It was time to put an end to this. With an air of superiority, he invoked something known only to a primordial demon god.
Word soul magic, down!
Abaddon commanded. At his words, Frieza's body plummeted uncontrollably to the planet's surface, crashing with a thunderous impact. Without warning, a wave of dark purple destruction energy burst forth. It surged towards its target, and to the astonishment of all who watched, it connected. Black Frieza found himself being drawn into the swirling ball of annihilation. Leaning in with a taunting smirk, Abaddon sneered, "A god does not reveal all his secrets, so-called Emperor. Especially not to the likes someone who is as weak as you." At that precise moment, Lord Beerus, who was meant to merely observe, charged forward. With one powerful hand, he seized the ball of destruction, his fingers closing around its chaotic energy. The god began to pull the Kakaishin energy into his body, using a technique known as divine absorption. In mere seconds, every remnant of Abaddon's energy had been eradicated from Universe 7. "I'm confused," Abaddon said, his voice tinged with confusion. "Why save him? I thought you two hated each other." "What can I say?" Lord Beerus replied with a hint of amusement in his voice. "This arrogant fool is starting to grow on me."